Node comes with a built-in debugger that supports single-stepping, breakpoints, watchers, and much more. In here, I have a simple function that I expect to calculate the negative sum of all its arguments. So when we call it with 1, 5, and 10, I expect the result to be 0 minus 1 minus 5 minus 10, which is minus 16. The implementation is simple. We reduce the arguments starting from 0, and every time we just subtract the argument from the running total. However, the script is not working as expected. So I'm going to use the built-in debugger to step through this code and try to find the problem. We activate the debugger by simply adding the debug argument to the command line. When we do that, you'll notice how the debugger is listening on this port. Node basically communicates with the debugger on this port. You can type help to see what you can do. Familiar debugging commands like continue, next, step are all available. Node starts the debugger session in a break state, so we always need to continue execution. If we type in continue now, the script will simply run and output the wrong answer and be done. We don't have any breakpoints. We can actually place a debugger line anywhere in the script, and when the debugger reaches that line, it will halt, allowing us to inspect that point in code and issue other commands. Since we reached the end of this script and did not really step into anything, let's start over using the restart command. This time, before continuing the execution, we'll set a breakpoint on line 2 using the sb command. This is equivalent to adding a debugger line on that point. Now that we have a breakpoint, we can continue the execution with the continue command. The debugger will break at that point. We can now inspect anything accessible to the script at that point using the rebel command. We can, for example, inspect the args variable, which appears to be correct, so it seems our problem might be inside the reduce callback. So let's create a breakpoint in there, line 3. Now the debugger should break 3 times there because we're looping over 3 arguments, but instead of manually inspecting the variables on every break, we can define watch expressions using the watch command. I'd like to watch the arg variable and the total variable. We now have 2 watchers that will be reported when the debugger breaks. When we continue, the watchers report arg to be 0 and total to be 1, which is actually flipped. I'm expecting total to start with 0 and arg to be the first argument in the array, which is 1. So to verify, let's continue again. Total is now getting the 5 value, which is the second argument in the array. And if we continue again, it's getting the 10. So I definitely got the order of the callback arguments wrong. It should be total first and arg second. Easy fix. If while debugging you cleared your screen, I can do that with Control L here, and you can't remember where exactly the debugger is currently breaking, you can use the list command, which takes an argument of how many lines it should list before and after the current breakpoint. This debugger client is not perfect, but it's good enough for a quick interactive debugging session. But it gets better. Recent Node versions support an experimental feature to integrate the Chrome dev tools to debug any script. All we need to do is use the --inspect argument with the script. But this feature does not break by default, so we can use the --debug break argument to make it break before the first execution. When we add the --inspect argument, we get a URL to open in Chrome. And when we open that URL in Chrome, DevTools will open our Node script, and we can use all the familiar fully featured tools here to inspect the script. We can step into an over functions. For example, to redo our debugging session here, I can simply step into negative sum, and while I'm stepping over the 3 reduce calls, I can see the argument values right there without any need to watch or set breakpoints. But if I need to set breakpoints, I can simply do that by clicking on the line numbers here. I can also use the console to inspect any variables or expressions, and I can even hover over variables to see their current values. So all the features that we know and love in Chrome DevTools can now be used with Node scripts. And the best thing about it is that it's all built in. I don't need to install any packages to get this value. When I resume the execution of this script, the console log call on line 7 will be reported here.